me ask you a question. Let me ask you if you can imagine any place in your mind in the world that when you look at it conveys death, but in reality is all life. I was in Central America working there, and a guy offered me a day to come to a farm. And he said, I want you to see something. And it was a butterfly farm, and full of caterpillars and cocoons and death. And I found myself in the middle of that garden, just mystified by the ideology of death and life working together through the struggle to bring about this mighty, beautiful creature, a butterfly. These things I share with you are not from a library. They're not from a book I read. They're from a life I've lived. Each individual has a story, has a life, has a setting in which he had to test and figure out who he was, who he is. And so I would appeal to each one of you. Maybe things didn't go the way you thought. In fact, you know they didn't. And that is the rubble, and that is the brokenness that each of us must deal with inside. And so we form a case against anybody that we can blame, and usually, ultimately, it's God. And I too did that. I was shot in the eye as a young man, and it took away from me so many things. I was devastated by relationships. I was arrested many times. I went to college at Central Michigan University and had a football scholarship because football was everything to me. It was the only thing that gave my life meaning and purpose when I was a young guy, from grade school, high school, and college. This little 15-inch ball of air, I served it like a god because it gave me identity, it gave me meaning. Got pictures of myself just because it shows the kind of hard style. I was bench pressing 405 pounds, ran a 4.40 for those of you who are familiar with the world of football. And I was at my peak, everything was cool. I made All-City, these awards, etc. But then injury after injury after injury just brought everything down to shambles once again. And I turned to drugs, I turned to getting arrested, to fighting. My face was head down in a sewer when I was at my end and looking into that sewer because there was no room in the jail cell for anybody to sleep or sit. I had to lay on the floor. And I didn't see the sewer, I smelled it. But what I saw was my own heart, my own emptiness, like a big empty warehouse. I was nothing, I had nothing, I knew nothing. Became the badass macho dude, just fighting out against it. You know, God, where are you? Why this? There is no God, blah, blah, blah. Built my case strong and hard. My dad was a religious man, and he was screaming and yelling. He would beat me and scream at my mom and abuse my mom, and it was a terrible situation. But he left an image of a God in my mind that was fierce, angry, wanted to just beat the hell out of me because of how evil I was. He wanted to punish me. And so someone gave me a Bible. My mom, when she was dying of cancer, I held her in my arms. She was just terribly sick with this intestinal cancer. And she would beg me to just give her a cup of ice. And I just think about that, a cup of ice. She would go, She said it was like a monster in her that was eating her alive. And she would eat that ice, and she would just go, oh, thank you, Michael. And finally, you know, she came to her end in my arms. it just crushed me. She was the love of my life. And I grew up a Catholic, drunk on Friday and Saturday, go to Mass on Sunday, just a hypocrite. But my mom was always there needling me with this thing called love, and continually to be there in my failure, all my time of getting arrested. She was there. And now a man comes into our house and he's dressed in black. He's driving a hearse and he's got a big black bag that he goes into my mom's bed, lays it next to her, and picks her body up, puts it inside, and then the noise of that zipper echoes in my mind to this day. Just a loud zipper up. I mean, death is like, wow, you don't think about it until it hits you at home. And then it like, wow, how can I deal with that? So many things just broke my soul down. And my case against God, was built high. Why did she have to suffer like that? Why was so much pain upon a woman who was so good and so loving and caring? We crave for understanding of our life, of life in general, and of God. How do we get to that redemption where He can turn that rubble and rebuild? And which brings me back to where I started in football, and how He allows circumstances to break and shatter us so that we are at ground zero, and we come to the meaning of life, to the purpose of life, to the origin of life, and to say, okay, God, I'll give you a chance. And so before my mom died, she gave me that Bible. And I didn't read it. I didn't want anything to do with it. But ultimately, I began to read it. No one was around. I'd hide it under a thing called a stereo. Remember that? That's what, back in the caveman days. You put that little thing on there, and the rock and roll and the Led Zeppelin and the Moody Blues and all those like Black Sabbath would come alive and then fill your mind, and you get high and you get stoned and you're in this wow world, and then all of a sudden it stops. Oh, yeah, it's a downer. But I would read my Bible as when I would do that. And slowly one became more of dominant than the other. And I began to think, wait a minute, there is another reality? There's a reality you can't see? There's a reality that you can't touch, more real than the rubble, than concrete and buildings and windows and glass? There's something more real than that? Not because somebody tells you that, but because it becomes that. And that's what Jesus, I began to read, promises. He says, I have a kingdom to give you, and it's not of this world. And He says that if you are born into this kingdom, then you will see what I'm saying, and I'm trying to convey to you. I remember reading Luke chapter 5, verse 7, where Peter says to Jesus when he first meets him, well, I know who you are. Stay away from me. I'm a wicked man. And Jesus says, you're right. I shouldn't talk to guys like you. I'm sorry. And he walks away from him. Actually, he ran away from Peter. No, he didn't skip a beat. He came right back to Peter and said, Peter, don't worry about your wickedness. What I'm going to show you, what I'm going to give you, will blow your mind, will make you a person that you've never been. And don't even worry about trying to do something. Just let me bring that process to you by seeking me, by talking to me, by coming to me. It's like Romans chapter 3, verse 10, where the scriptures declare that all humanity is afflicted with a thing called sin and wickedness. And when I read that for the first time, I didn't get offended. I was thrilled that God knew my state, and yet still He loved me, that He didn't hold that against me. Instead, it caused Him to trigger His compassion. These are the thoughts that turned in my mind as I drove to a football stadium, and I was thinking in my mind about all that I had read about from the scriptures. And bottom line, when I came down to it, is Jesus alive today? Do I have to try to get back 2,000 years ago and try to live out or be like that? Or is He here today to empower me with something I don't know, to become new? And that's what began as I went
to the University of Notre Dame in the football stadium, and I surrendered to Jesus. I don't know if there's an experience that you're going to give me or not, but I'm going to follow you and believe that you are alive. And if you could fill me with your spirit, whatever that means, I don't know. If you could show me. It was then I did not realize that I was heavy burdened with guilt for all the people I had hurt, for all the things of destruction I had done, which were many. I did not understand. It was like a rope around my soul, pulling. And I did not realize I was weighed down. And all of a sudden, like a butterfly, that guilt flew away. It was lifted. And I thought, are you kidding me? I'm actually forgiven? That this Jesus of 2,000 years ago is not dead. He is alive. That I could enter this cocoon and find myself the target of transformation. Something in my mind, something in my heart, something in my spirit began to reach, began to grow.
John 12:25, Jesus says, he who loves his life will lose it, but he who will lose his life shall find it.
Cassius Clay was just 12 years old as he was getting ready to whoop the kid that had just stolen his bike. He was in the police station reporting it stolen in Louisville, Kentucky, and he realized he probably shouldn't have just said that out loud, because the sheriff comes walking over with the look on his face like, oh boy, here comes the lecture, you know? But he's like, you know, son, before you go fight that kid, didn't say exactly what he expected him to say. He said, you should come to my gym and I'll train you how to box. Following week, at just 89 pounds, he won his first fight. 10 years later, 1964, Muhammad Ali was the heavyweight champion of the world, defeating Sonny Liston and shocking everyone. It's always fascinated me. What does it take to be a champion? What is the difference between a rum-dum and an all-time great? Because there's another fight that had the most lopsided odds of any bout in history. David versus Goliath. You probably know this story well, but being named David, I've studied this story a lot and it's just always fascinated me. What was it that David had that made him the giant rather than Goliath? And I want to tell you that everything that David had to defeat Goliath, you have right there where you are. Because every day you guys face a Goliath there. But I want to tell you that not only can you make it, you can more than overcome. a scripture that guys know so well in Philippians 4:13, of where Paul says, I can do all things. They get it tattooed on their arms. You hear sports athletes throw it around. But Paul wasn't talking about throwing touchdowns or doing a backflip on a motorcycle over the Grand Canyon. He wrote this while in prison. People don't realize that. He was talking about facing impossible difficulties behind bars and finding a way to win, to be content, to find victory in the little battles that we deal with every day. You guys wake up in the morning and you have these micro battles of choices that you have to make, of letting go of a situation, of forgiving someone that wronged you, of facing the depression and the mental anguish and the mental atrophy that in your time at prison, you don't see it as however many years that you have, but you break it down by a moment. And that if you can win the moment, you'll win your time. And that each moment that comes at you is a micro fight. And if you can engage your will to not react with frustration when frustration comes at you, but you just choose in that moment to diffuse your anger and replace it with hope. Because that seed of hope will grow for the rest of your time. And the more you make and win these micro fights, they'll become more natural to you. And you'll go along and you realize you're becoming a champion. Because Muhammad Ali said, I hated every minute of training. But I said, suffer now and live the rest of your life as a champion. My brothers and sisters and I were all secondary black belts in Taekwondo. And what I love so much about Taekwondo, beyond a physical block or movements that we learned, is an internal fight, an unseen fight of discipline, of focus that I had to learn. Because at first I didn't really want to get up every morning at 6 o'clock in the morning, put on the smelly gear, have someone yell at you, go faster, kick harder, do more sit-ups. But over time, I learned an attitude of discipline, of focus, that I can choose to self-control, to say, no, I don't want to do this, but I'm going to, because in the long run, it's better for me. A really fantastic quote from Jack Dempsey, one of the greatest boxers. He said, a champion is one who gets up even when he can't.
Will attack, and you don't want that.
So fellas, I don't need to tell you how brutal life can be. And you certainly don't need me to remind you how hard life can hit. Sylvester Stallone had a good line in the movie Rocky Balboa when he said, this world ain't all rainbows and butterflies. It's a cold and cruel and nasty place. And it don't care how tough you think you are, it's gonna knock you to your knees, and it's gonna keep you there as long as you let it. Not you, not me, not nobody can hit as hard as life can hit. But it ain't about how hard you can hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward, because that is how winning is done.
the unseen fight.
I will never give up, I will never give in. I will keep on fighting till this battle I win. They say that I won't cause they know where I've been. Pull the sword from the stone, build the warrior within. I'm not about to allow a lot of doubt to bring me down. Don't ever count me out cause I'm a mountain from the ground. Not forgot, I'm not gonna stop till I'm atop the clouds. An astronaut that's got a shot to turn his world around. Truth is that I'm choosing all the bruises and removing all excuses as I'm moving like I'm a superhuman. Losing all confusion to produce my own solution as I'm fighting for my future cause this is a revolution. Give it all I got cause I'm never giving up. No, never gonna stop cause I'm always going up. Yeah, blood, sweat, tears, defeating all my fears. No guts, no glory, you got both so don't you worry. It's David and Goliath turning hand into triumph with the faith of a lion. Cause I'm bright like a diamond, I'm reminded and I'm guided by a mind that's not confined by the lines. It's the eye of the tiger in the eye of the storm. I'll fight cause I'm a fighter and I'll win this war.
He was walking in the yard, looked up and noticed a guy seemed lost, he seemed broken. He asked him his name, told him what his was, gave him a story about life with a look in his eye, a hand on his shoulder, one conversation, a simple moment, things that change us if we notice when we look up sometimes. They say you would never make it, but you were built to break the mold. The life that you are changing is your own. So I sing a song for the hustlers training for the long run. All my brothers waiting for a note to come. First timers, all the lifers, guys there locked down, wishing they could see the sun. This goes out to the underdog. Keep on fighting for what you love. You'll find that someday soon enough you rise up, rise up. Kitchen, talking to his buddy about his wife and his children. Told him to hold on, you can make it through prison. Finding resolution in his mind with a look in his eye, hand on his shoulder, one conversation, a simple moment, things that change us if we notice when we look up sometimes.